Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Get in the Game podcast. I'm your host, Scott Linebrink, and I'm here for another episode. And I'm excited to introduce my friend and recent inductee into the Hall of Fame, Billy Wagner. Billy, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, Scott. It's been a while, and I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get with you.
That's okay. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter how long it takes us to connect, it's just that we did connect. And I'm really excited just to catch up with my old friend.
Fantastic.
Well, Billy played for 16 years. He compiled 422 saves for the Astros, the Phillies, the Mets, the Red Sox, and the Braves. He's a seven-time All-Star, Rolaids Relief Man of the Year, and as I mentioned, a recent inductee into the Hall of Fame. Billy, congratulations on the Hall of Fame. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. You know how hard it is to do this, being out the bullpen. You can only rely on your bullpen mates to talk you through these and help you through getting all these accolades. So, for me, who went for a lot of my teammates and all of my teammates, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah, those teammates are special. You're one of those special guys for me because I was a young guy coming up. It was my second organization with the Astros, and I met you. And oddly enough, the year that I got traded over to the Astros, you were hurt. That was back in 2000.
Huh?
But I still remember that you were very much a visible presence. Had a lot in terms of influence, and just immediately got to know this guy that was just a outright bulldog on the mound. Maybe not the tallest guy in terms of stature, but certainly somebody that would go out and command an audience every time he pitched. And so I was just grateful to learn from you. I've got your jersey hanging right over here on the wall, and I think of you often. But as you think about some of those guys that influenced you, who are those guys for you?
It's funny. There are so many, over the life of your career, you start to kind of really, it. There's so many people, but you really start to see a small number. And for me, Doug Henry, who was a big time family man. Jerry Goff, who was a big time family man. Coming from a broken home and going through those patterns, the biggest thing I wanted to establish was being a family man and keeping my family first and foremost. But as a professional athlete, it is a very selfish game, and so you become very one dimensional. But those guys, and then I'll be honest with you, it sounds crazy, but the younger guys, at the time was you and uh, guys like our Bible study. You remember with Lance and
Oh yeah,
you and me, and
yeah.
there were so many guys and those things made an impact on me because I feel like we're always searching for acceptance, but in a game like this where acceptance is very hard to find except through success. Um, having people you can go to that have the same faith and the same thoughts, make it easier to and hold yourself accountable to each other and stuff. And I mean, we all have trials and tribulations. We all fall down. We all have to deal with these things. But having guys in your path and in your circle that could hold you accountable and you looked up to. And for me, age was everybody thinks you got to be older to be looked up at, but for me, the Doug Henrys, but the Lance Berkmans, the Scott Linebrinks, the guys that held themselves accountable to their families, to their faith, was something that I felt personally made it easier for me. But it was also that it made me question things that I may want to do compared to the things that I'm going to do.
Yeah, you think about all that a young man is confronted with. There's challenges for any red-blooded 21-year-old coming into the world and experiencing things for the first time. But certainly on that major league clubhouse and that whole lifestyle, man. I mean, I found out real quick. There's some vastly different paths here that I could follow, and really, who you align with is as important as what you do and where you go.
Absolutely. You want to make sure that, um, you know, you put yourself in a very small circle, and it takes trial and error. It takes, you know, going one way and get put back on the right path. And as a professional athlete, it's real easy to be sitting there and, see the glitz and glamour, and want to fit into that group. But I think the more you're involved in pro ball and you really start putting yourself in the right circles, the circle becomes a little bit bigger each and every year because you find out more and more people are in that circle that you didn't know of. And I think that's a blessing. I think that's God's way of telling us all that, for me, my career was not for just me. My career allowed me to do a lot of things, but it put me in a unique situation to be able to be a spokesman, to be an influencer, uh, in ways that you want to be able to be in a leadership role. But I mean, you can't be in those leadership roles without falling down and trying to find your way back up because you can't always affect the people that are looking at you in a different way. And I think the thing that sticks out to me is, the TV show Chosen. I think, having some of these, you know, uh, casting crowns, their songs talking about how so many people are used in different ways. And I think, I look at it a little bit different, knowing that, I'm not being perfect doesn't make me unable to help others or speak on my faith. So, my career allows me the ability to speak about my faith freely because, uh, I think everybody needs to hear that, this hope and this passion of where we've come from.
Mm. Yeah, and that was so important for me hearing a guy like you that when I got there and you were much more accomplished in the game than I was, but seeing that you had a lot of humility, a lot of grace, and faith was obviously an important part of your life. So that was hugely impactful for me, and I want to thank you for that. And I know there's all of us have younger people in our lives who may be looking to us to set an example. And I think that's just a great reminder that we have no idea who we're going to be impacting from day to day. And you had a lot of great influence on me.
Thank
Billy, I want to go back to your story, and I would love for you because I've heard it sitting down in the bullpen, listening to you tell me about it. But you had a non-traditional path to the big leagues. You had some, quite honestly, amazing events in your life that led to giving you the fastball that you did and the ability to go out and do what you did for all those years. But can you kind of walk us through that early story and some of those unique circumstances?
you. Yeah, I mean, I think of my story because everybody's asked now that I've gotten put in that Hall of Fame era, you know, what that path is, kind of how I see that path, but it's a path of perseverance. And it starts young. Broken home. I lived with multiple sets of parents when I was early in my career. That weird accident where, kind of like the Roy Oswald touch a battery, shock yourself kind of thing, kind of happens. But yeah, I'm playing football in my grandmother's front yard, and buddy of mine, Chip Anderson, falls on me, breaks my arm, sets the whole, gamut into, to rolling in this weird way. And, a year, maybe less, I fall and break my arm again on monkey bars. Now I've had, broke my arm twice on a situation where it's, uh, you know, you're not looking at me to be a Hall of Famer, but now I've turned myself into a left-handed player just because of kids being resilient. We're not looking at this as some life-altering thing at 5, 6, 7 years old. We're looking at this as being, uh, just the normal routine, rough kid. I was, a late bloomer. Little. I mean, breaking a bone was something pretty natural about every other year. It seemed like. And I love football, and so playing football broke both my collarbones. I broke my arms. I've just there's a lot of injuries involved in playing football for me. But it was those paths that led to me going to 11 different high schools, or not high schools, but schools in general, and then going into living with
Wow.
being raised by my aunt and uncle through my high school years. Uh, but and through that, bouncing from grandparent to grandparent before I got to my aunt and uncles. But that's where, like, my grandparents were very, I mean, they were very religious, and you went to church on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. If the doors was open, you were going. And then my coaches, my football coaches in Little League and in Little League baseball were my pastor, Mike Sage. And so, you're influenced, and you don't know how those angels are put in your path, but that seemed to be that nudge I kept getting to keep me on the right path. But so I go in and I'm living with my aunt and uncle, following pretty much my cousin Jeff Lammy, who was one of the best athletes that I'd been around and hard worker, and go to Tazewell, and he does well, and I'm still sort of a late bloomer, small. I end up going to follow him to Ferrum College to play football, and I played my freshman year and get quite a bit of playing time, and played baseball because that's what you do in the spring, and so I played baseball. And the football coach, defensive back coach, saw me, walked me down watched me pitch, and then he said, "Hey, I'm gonna walk you down to the clubhouse, but on the way, I'm going to tell you that if you're not going to play football anymore." I'm like, I'm thinking I love football, it's my thing, but he goes on to tell me that if you come out for football, I'm going to run you. You're going to be the most in shape pitcher ever in the season. So I stopped playing. I go and I buy in on baseball, and I just buy all in, and as fate would have it, about understanding the whys and things. I bought in and became successful and things like that. But my path through this has been through that nudge of that little angel saying, "Hey, you should do this. Hey, these are the things." Somehow I managed to listen to that. It's pretty much like marrying my wife. And the best advice my college coach gave me was, "Don't screw this up." So we've been married 30 years now, and so it's just so hard to understand the paths and the nudges you get to keep you on that path to get you to that finish line. And I think as unique as it is, it just as you get older, you start to see really the real meaning of what this is about. And so the moments that you went through your career, for me to get to where I'm at today, has just been that stepping stone for me to be a little bit freer to talk about those steps to the young men and women that I coach, and the possibilities for for things to happen to you, but to really express my faith and enjoy the what I do a little bit more without those anxieties. Because for 16 years, I wouldn't want to say that I thought I was super happy-go-lucky. I was very intense and I don't know if I enjoyed it at all at times, because it was a, win at all costs type of thing. And so that whole ability has allowed me to help my son, help others go, "Hey, man, there is more to life than this right here. Please do not buy in on this just only being the only way. This is this is a stepping stone for you to do more and be made for more." And so the perseverance and the things that we experienced, me and my wife experiencing in AAA, the loss of her father, right the day that I get put on the 40-man, all these things that built us, it's allowed us to really, lean on our faith, lean on each other, and and I think that's why I think my journey is such a journey of perseverance, because I'm the most unlikely person to be where I'm at today. When you think about undersized, some of the things that were told to me in school that probably were never going to make it in anything. It's probably going to, I wasn't a very good student or an active student, and I think a lot of those things helped me get to here today to push me in the right directions.
So, Billy, when you think back to, and thank you for sharing all that, I think that's something that resonates with me too, because I was one of those underdogs, and I was encouraged by hearing about other people that maybe didn't have a silver spoon in their mouth, or all the opportunities right away. But yeah, as you think about the trials and the challenges and even the failures, what did those teach you, and how do you think that they made you into the player and the man that you are today?
Well, the blessing was baseball was always pretty easy. I was blessed with a good arm. It was learning to deal with success, learning to deal with, failure, learning to deal with the people around me that, didn't think the way I was thinking or having different beliefs. It was, I think this path has given me the perspective of being able to be a little bit less judgmental because, to this day, it's easy to say you don't like this type of music or just the way this person wears or sings or whatever. We become that. But I think becoming an athlete, I'm less apt to sit there and boo the kid that misses the free throw. I'm blessed because of
Mm.
knowing the pressure of today's games and knowing the pressure of life, knowing what you've got to fit into this mold to be accepted. I just see, going through all these things and listening to your life under a microscope, going through the 10 years of the Hall of Fame and what people felt about you and why you weren't this and why you were this. And, it helped you put some things into perspective along and just looking back and saying that, what is important, what is not important, who do you really need to put your faith and trust in. And going through the 10 years of this, I think it strengthened me in faith because I become way more apt to read and really try to focus on the words that I'm reading. Um, I've read the Bible forever, grew up reading the Bible, but I never could always understand it. And each time you read the Bible, you can read the same passage every day, and every day will be a new meaning. And I think, the more I've done that, the more I start to put perspective into what I'm reading a little bit more, how I can use that a little bit more. And that comes through maturation, but that comes through the perseverance of wanting more, trying to understand more and failing and I keep using the word fail, but that's and falling down. But I think that's the word because I think people who think that you only have the gold spoon in your mouth, sort of say, because I'm like you, I thought only big leaguers came from rich, fancy people who just knew somebody who knew somebody. I didn't know it was really there's a bunch of us that are in the same mold, but in talent. So I think those those ups and downs and going through this really just have made a big influence on me and making me want to have an influence on others.
Well, you certainly have done that during your playing career, post career. And as you think about now, and I had to look this up, 351 men have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe there's somewhere around 20,000 that have ever played the game in the history of the game for 140 years, whatever, however long it is. So, 351 out of 20,000 is a pretty select number. What does that mean to you, and how do you hope to use that platform? Because that's going to be a whole nother platform for you now to serve others.
Well, excuse me. I think the thing that really is crazy when you look at those numbers is when I got to the Hall of Fame, the lady Jane said 1% make it to the big leagues and stick. 1% of that 1% make it to the Hall of Fame. And when you look at those numbers, it becomes way more surreal that, I mean, no way do I walk down, the hall and I'm looking at the names that are on these plaques and go, oh, yeah, Billy Wagner. I mean, that just doesn't sound, it doesn't sound the way Sandy Koufax, Willie Mays, Billy Wagner. It's still got that weird feel. But, but I do think, God has made me for more. And I think the ability to be humble and understand these things can be an impact to others and not for myself. I mean, I'm blessed and God has blessed me with so much, but He wants me to use that for something more than, hey, just beat your chest and stuff. And so I really feel like it is hard to sit there and look at yourself as a Hall of Famer. But it does make me think way more that I'm supposed to be more. And this isn't truly all about me. This is about, you know, the blessing and the grace of God that got me here, because by no means should I be where I'm at today with all that I have done and the things that I've said and, you know, fell so short. But God's blessed me with grace and mercy now for me to go out there and say, hey, you know, I do believe in Jesus Christ. I do know that there is a higher power, and I want to be a good influence. And I battle that every day, because when you're on the baseball field, you have to separate certain things at times. And I have to have that conversation with myself, like, hey, the win is not as important than this person and what we're building. And so, you know, it's a constant battle, but I do believe that platform gives me that. And I think it helps people see the humility in what I have to deal with, because I do want people to know that I am just a person.
In a few months, you're going to travel up to Cooperstown. You're going to sit on that lawn that we've all watched many, many times and deliver your speech. And I'm guessing that you're probably going to reminisce and maybe even tell a couple of stories, and not asking you to give away your speech
Well,
here, but
I'm open.
as you,
I'm open for suggestions, because I'm telling you, I've been carrying a notebook around, because I do not know how to put 54 years in a 10-minute
yeah,
speech and thank everybody that has blessed me, gave me this opportunity. That is the hardest thing. I have sit there and I've
yeah,
thought about, and now before I have to write this, for years I've thought about, what if I get in, you know, what am I going to say, and driving the tractor around the farm, a bush hogging, and no problem. I've got this thing whipped. I'll be able to whip this out. But now it's like, hey, you've got 5 or 6 months to figure this out. Let me tell you something. It is a, you know, I've talked to these Hall of Famers, and they're like, no, not a big deal. You know, you think these guys, you don't want, but these guys didn't come up the way I came up. I mean,
yeah,
sitting with a Goose Gossage, sitting with these guys who are, you know, bigger, stronger, just the ability was completely different. To sit back there and go, well, yeah, you know, I could see that 5'7" guy out of high school was probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Yet it's not the same. And so sitting here going, hey, I want to thank my high school coach. Why? Well, everybody thinks that. No. If if I was in today's game, I would not be playing. You're not valued the
mm,
same. You're not coached the same. Coaches are not good coaches. They're not good enough coaches to coach guys that could be something. Today, a Roy Oswald, a Billy Wagner may not get the opportunities, because they're going to value on size. And when you value somebody on size, you stop looking at the heart and the ability and the drive, and because it becomes less of a coachable asset. And so you're coaching size before you're coaching heart and IQ. And so, you know, that's, you know, when I look at those things, I think about what do I want my message to be in my speech? Perseverance. You know, I don't want it to be Debbie Downer talking about how I overcome so much, but I really want to talk about how, you know, I've been blessed to get to this far. And then, you know, and they're like, hey, do you think you'll get through this? And I'm thinking, no, no, I am
mm,
a straight crier, emotional. When I think
yeah,
about my kids and the perseverance and the journey, it's just not easy to sit there and go, hey, I'd like to thank these guys and, you know, these great men. I said, hey, I just don't see that going easy. So my speech is going to be about 10 minutes, but I'm going to have about 2 extra minutes of crying and trying to get through this and bubbling. So, I mean, you know, it is not going to be, you know, as professional. It's going to be straight country boy speech, probably.
I love it. Well, take us into maybe one memory or even an at bat that you have, that when you think about your career, your mind goes there. Is there a favorite memory or a situation?
You know, I think the bat that sticks out, and I think it was probably two ABs. Is one game way early in my career, and I think that was in '96. And we're in the Astrodome, and I've got bases loaded, one out, and two of the greatest hitters with the Giants, with Bonds and Williams up. And Randy Knorr walks up and says, "Hey, we're going to throw 6 fastballs here, and we're just going to take it to the house." And being naive and stuff, like, yeah, I know who everybody is, but also being naive and not really caring about what could possibly happen played in my favor too. And so I ended up throwing 6 fastballs and striking both of them out, and that kind of put me on the map. That was like, oh my gosh, he's fierce. And when you're in that locker room and your superstars, the Bagwells and the Biggio's, walk up and like all of a sudden pats on the back and stuff, and they start talking about. That's when you kind of go, oh, well, maybe I am good enough. And so I think that kind of put me in a in that new circle, I guess. But there, and I think that was the probably coming out party and things like that. But I think that's what everybody looks at. But the fearlessness of going out there and just competing and going right at everyone. And I mean, when you're in that role, you're gonna give up that big home run, and you're gonna kick yourself at times. But that was the coming out. That when I look at it, that kind of kick-started that big league career.
Well, I've got a story for you, and this came up just recently. I happened to be with Lance Berkman whenever you got inducted. We were on a hunting trip together, and so we started telling Billy stories. And I don't think Lance would mind me telling this, but he said, "Man, I remember the year that I got called up, and it was in the Astrodome, and he said it was a tight game, 1-2 run game, bases loaded." And he said Tony Womack's up, and he hits a little slappy line drive down left field. And Lance, being all excited, being in the big leagues, he's going to save the game. And he goes in and just lays out to catch this line drive. And he said, I missed that thing by 15 feet. And he said, that ball bounced over my head, went all the way back into the corner. I jump up, sprint after it. Turns into a inside the park grand slam home run. And he said, I'm coming off the field, a couple outs later. And he said, I'm just feeling about as bad as I can feel. And he said, I can just feel the looks of these veteran guys just glaring at me like, what are you doing, rookie? And he said, the first guy that comes over to me is Billy Wagner. And he puts his arm around me and he goes, hey, he said, I don't care. He said, I'll take that kind of effort any day. So you just keep playing hard and keep doing what you're doing. And he said, here's a guy that showed me tremendous grace in a moment where he had every right to be upset with me. But he said, that's my memory of Billy. And I'm sure there was a lot of guys that had
such a hard time after that, because we'd work out in the off season in the Astrodome, and I'd go, let's work on back pedals. Let's just work on some back pedals, Lance. Let's just work on some things. And, because you know what? We all want to do the best we can. And I was down in my first year in 96. I got Doug Draybeck pitching, and we are a game or two away from getting into the playoffs. And Jeff Conine, I come in the 8th inning. I get that guy out. Going into the 9th inning, I throw 2 pitches, back-to-back home runs, lose the game. And I've got, it's really that moment. I'm like, oh, dang, I've screwed this up. And I'm walking off field, and Doug Draybeck standing at the top of the steps, and he goes, I'd want you there every day. And those are moments that let you know that you're going to fail, but it's possible to come back the next day. And so Doug Draybeck had a big influence on me in how you talk to the person who has that bad day, because you're going to have that bad day. And you got to understand that those are the days that make the good days even better. And so, for all the saves I got and everything, that moment helped me talk to maybe Lance and stuff, but knowing that, we're not perfect. That was fun. When I wrote a book, A Way Out, and had Lance write the foreword and stuff, because Lance just was such a great person just to be around and just listen to him tell stories. Well, you playing the guitar and singing was the most impressive thing, but also having Lance tell stories. It's like Jay Powell. Yeah. It's like Jay Powell telling a story. All of a sudden, you're just there. You're entranced. You're like this, and so those are things that I look back and see You know, the very good times that we had as a group.
That's right. Well, yeah, and you think about these big leaguers. I mean, they do extraordinary things that only a handful of people in the world can do. And so people, elevate them and put them on a platform that maybe sometimes is a little bit hard to stand on. And at the end of the day, we're all just people, and we need encouragement, we need grace, we need somebody to come put their arm around us too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Billy, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the way that you serve, that you have served, and I look forward to watching you on that day in July coming up when you're on Cooperstown, and know that I may shed a tear with you.
Well, that's going to help me because there's going to be a few. But Scott, I can't tell you how much I enjoy following you and all the great things that you do with Adam and other teammates and your faith. You are a leader by example and how you go about your stuff, and I appreciate your friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, bud. It's good to be with you.